Hi, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio and Void Cat. I'm your host, Allison, and we'll be going through a article from the BBC called Young Men Are Struggling. What does this mean for young women? Young men all die, young women most affected. All right, so this is gonna be fun. Buckle your seatbelts in. We're gonna be doing a lot of women worsting today, a substantial amount, maybe more than ever before. All right. Shall we just, oh wait, I should do the things first. Sorry, my cat is distracting the heck out of me. If you would like to send a message at any point throughout the show, if you have anything to comment on, anything to contradict, just don't like my cat, whatever, feedthebadger.com/justthetip is where you want to send them. And you get a little bit more space to elaborate on your thoughts. You get to send those thoughts not through YouTube's comment enhancement system, and we get the full benefit of whatever funds that you send. So it's a win-win and not particular win for YouTube, but depending on how loyal you are to YouTube, that may not matter. And if you'd like to support the show, like myself, Brian, Hannah, Mike, go to feedthebadger.com/support and put a few shekels in the hat for that endeavor. Keep us going, and we'll keep going with the deluge of content to break through the barricades. All right, let's. Good grief. Brian might chime in time to time. I'm just like, young men are struggling. What does this mean for young women? Does that not encapsulate the entire flippin' problem with all of this? Like, oh, good grief. Void Cat agrees. She says, this is such cancer, we shouldn't even bother going into it. You should feed me more treats instead and play with me. All right. Young men are struggling. What does this mean for young women? All right. So look at that. This dude is the dude that's going to tell us all what we should do to fix young men so young women don't have to be impacted by young men being impacted, I suppose. Young men in the U.S. are struggling. Are they not also struggling in the U.K.? I mean, this article is from the U.K. Why are you not talking about the UK? Why are you talking about the US? I think the young men in the UK are also struggling, if not more. There's no shortage of statistics about academic achievement, income levels, loneliness, even lack of sex, which indicate that the boys are not all right. Compared to young women, boys are getting left behind. Well, yes, because they're boys, not young women. Like, presumably young women are embarking on their lives. Boys are still in school. That's just a really weird kind of framing. Boy, okay. But even having the conversation about how to tackle the young man crisis is complicated and can leave girls feeling, well, put out. And here again, here's the other problem. We can't talk about the issues facing boys and men, or boys in this case, because if we do, we apparently take the oxygen out of the room for issues facing women and girls. So right off the bat, we are apparently pitting one against the other, which is sort of consistent with this whole sort of political landscape in which both sexes, or sorry, there is the woman party, which is the liberals, labor, I suppose, or the left, and then the not woman party, which is everyone else, the Hitler Nazi men, masculinity party, because, you know, masculinity is now Nazism. Okay. But even having the conversation about how to tackle the young man crisis is complicated and can leave girls feeling, well, put out. After all, girls and women have had centuries of inbuilt disadvantages to contend with. Don't they finally deserve a moment to shine? Is this what shining looks like? I mean, when you look around everywhere, this is the future is female, right? The economy is at an all-time sluggish low. And yeah, this is it. This is shining. Okay, men are still paying the majority of the taxes. They're still doing the jobs that are necessary to keep the infrastructure running so everybody else can work. This is shining. And women are still doing the jobs that they did 100 years ago. They are still nurses. They're still child carers. You know, there's a minute uptick into computer science and business. But for the most part, nothing has changed except one thing. We keep bashing on boys to try to somehow elevate girls. And again, right here, we see that the people who talk about this from the other side already start off from a zero-sum game. They already say the playing field that we're in is a zero-sum game. You bash boys in order to bring up girls. You remove whatever you think is boys' privilege in order to privilege girls, right? Already, we're right at the off to the start in a zero-sum game, okay? Add in the bad actors online. Hey, Brian, do you think they mean us? Add in the bad. Go ahead.
No, maybe.
Add in the bad actors online, like people who are pointing out the framing here. Like, boys are being left behind. How does this affect girls? That's a framing. Girls have been existing within a world of disadvantage for however many centuries. It always sort of shifts. That's a framing. Like, and I'm pointing this out, that they're attempting to fix something in a frame in which the fix is the problem. Like, so, for example, if you're in the frame that anything that boys get that girls don't is something that is necessarily taken away from girls and is a moral horror show, then how do you fix a situation that requires you to give anything to boys? If you think that is the problem, you can't embrace it as a solution. Anyway, so yeah, I'm a bad actor. I'm pretty sure. Those who try to spin the plight of struggling young men into a zero-sum game rally cry for vengeance against women, and the conversation becomes trickier still. Like, right off the bat, they put this in the zero-sum. They want to play the zero-sum game, but they want everybody else to play the, oh, we're all together in this singing Kumbaya. They started the zero-sum game when they made the conjecture. These individuals, feminists, let's be honest, this is the ideology we're dealing with. Feminists made the conjecture that women exist within a society that disadvantages them intentionally disadvantages. That was their conjecture. Their conjecture was men in charge, men having certain jobs equals women oppressed, and also something about men using rape and domestic violence to uphold the patriarchy and keep women in line. That's a pretty zero-sum game, don't you think? Like, where do you go? That's not even a zero-sum game. That's like an evil-sum game. Like, men are overtly evil. They use rape and domestic violence to keep women in line. That's evil. It's even eviler when you think that women tend to be their closest companions in life throughout the ages, right? So this is the framework we exist within, that the problem has emerged from, the crisis in young men has emerged from. And that framework, I don't know, is it zero sum? It's more like negative sum. That's the irony, is they're accusing everyone of existing in a zero sum framework when, in fact, their conjecture exists within a negative sum framework. So in other words, it's not that men and women are competing over the same resource. It's that if men get anything, women lose. And it's not that they just lose a reason. It's like, if men win, everything gets taken away from women. That's a negative sum game. A zero sum game is that if men win, the thing that men win gets taken away from women, but women still get whatever they win. Like, it's just split down the middle, right? A negative sum game is winner takes all. And that's what they've proposed the world is for boys and men. Throughout all of human history, it's been winner takes all, and men have always been the winner. And this idea that the world is structured in order to benefit men, this is a hypothesis that it's not even that it's been proven true or false. It's never been framed in a way that could be proven true or false. That's what it means by a falsifiable hypothesis. Feminists' hypothesis about reality has never even had the first step to becoming legitimate, much less further steps down. And where we look at the evidence, it's false. So starting from the very beginning, starting from the very foundation, we are in a framework that is never been proven true. So feminists just grabbed this virgin territory and colonized it with all of their stuff that nobody challenged them on and say, hey, you got to present a hypothesis that's falsifiable and then, test for the null hypothesis. So test for your hypothesis being wrong, right? And they've never done that. They've never been held to that standard. So we are doing all this in the context of a made up reality that has never been proven true, right? And it's a negative sum reality that has never been proven true, but it's very, very useful. It's very useful rhetoric for getting stuff because it induces guilt. If we live in a negative sum reality in which men are always winning, then they always have to give the proceeds of their wins to women because they're winning unfairly and everything needs to be fair, right? But how do you deal with the situation that results in which boys are now disadvantaged? And this is what we chose to do. That's the other thing. Maybe I'm getting too abstract, you guys. Maybe I should, I'll take a look at what you're saying in the comments to see if I'm getting way too abstract for you. All right, so let's see. I'll go to the special chat first, see if there's anything interesting in there. Gabriel Phelan Lucas says, is that how you say Phelan? YOLO, you only live once. Thank you. Yes, this is very true. Lucas, Gabriel says, Mia is best cat of color. Yeah, she's not being a very good cat right now. She's discovered if she harasses me, she gets treats. And that's a bad precedent to set. Plus, she probably also thinks that I'm really angry at this glowy box that she doesn't understand. Based Mia. Albatross says, hey, y'all. And Gabriel says, girls feel put out for men literally put out of existence. Yes. Yes. And that's the other thing. Like, what kind of game is it that even the headline is playing? Like, they're saying young men are struggling. Young men are struggling. What does this mean for young women? What is that game? Like, you frame this issue in those terms, and then you start talking about a world in which men are put first. Well, it's obviously not the world you're part of. Oh, shoot. Okay. I hope you guys didn't hear that. YouTube decided to just spontaneously start a video. Okay, let's see what else we got here. My lobotomy, picky physics student says, my lobotomy was a success. I can now join the special chat. E Prime Fry says, we all lose by being born into this world. Okay. All right. Nothing's coming from that. Oh, and I was in the vertical chat or the horizontal chat, the good chat. All right, let's continue. One person is trying to bring the discussion into a more positive space for young men and women alike. Is Scott Galloway, a professor at New York University who's become a media powerhouse in recent years. Have you heard of Scott Galloway, Brian?
No, never heard of him. Probably a male feminist, my guess.
He hosts several podcasts, including Lost Boys, which debuts in May. Well, then he hasn't been hosting it. He's just sort of starting it. He's now counseling the Democratic Party on messaging around boys and men. And he has a new book coming out this autumn titled Notes on Being a Man. So I'm guessing he's doing the rounds in the Democratic spaces because they lost that election very badly, I suppose. We had, I wanted to talk to Scott about what's going on with young men today and how all of this affects the lives of young women. In a world where people can only think about how things affect young women, how are they ever going to help young men? Because the instant they, like, I'll use an example. Obama, years and years ago, he put into place an infrastructure package, which is probably the best use of government spending. Oh God, I'm going to get the roads. I could hear the comments about roads stampeding towards me. But of all the possible uses of government funds, I think infrastructure is probably the least offensive. And he put this infrastructure bill in place, and the feminists descended on it like locusts. Why? Because most of the jobs that were created in this infrastructure bill were going to go to men. And we can't have that, because if you benefit men, not even zero-sum game. If you benefit men, it's a negative-sum game. You are actively harming women. And how do you do anything to help men and boys in that framework, which is obviously the framework these individuals are operating within? And again, this framework has never even been passingly tested for veracity, for any kind of scientific legitimacy. So we're in a framework that we just imagined for ourselves. And we're making solutions based on this framework, which is a negative-sum game between men and women. And none of it is real. It's just a fart chasing a fart. This is the article again. We had a really thought-provoking conversation. You can watch or read more of it below. No, I'm not. Oh, I wonder.
I think everybody.
Well, this is 15 minutes. I guess I could play this, or we could just read. I think it'd be quicker if I just read it. Below is an excerpt from our conversation. But if you're interested in watching this whole thing, it's BBC's Work Life. Young men are struggling. What does this mean for young women? Cathy K, that is the interviewer, set out the landscape for me on why you're looking at men, what the crisis is as you see it in the mental and physical health of young men. Scott Galloway, look, the data is overwhelming. 4 times as likely to kill themselves, 3 times as likely to be addicted, 12 times as likely to be incarcerated, record levels of depression. We're raising the most obese, anxious, and depressed generation in history. For the first time, a 30-year-old isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. Women are making more money in urban centers under the age of 30 than men. And by the way, I think that's a wonderful thing. Women, you see the framework? Women are doing better than men.
Your camera froze.
Okay, just a sec.
Yeah.
It's probably to do with some void cat interference. We have entered the void because the void cat has interfered with things. Let's see if I can fix this.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Um,
Oh, wait, it froze again.
Okay, just give me a second here, guys. Come on, you. Come on. Okay, I'm going to have to restart everything.
All right.
Okay, and this will start again with, they'll be zoomed out.
Oh, yeah,
so
there you go. Yeah, you're back. You'll have to move some things around.
There we go.
All right.
All right, I'm back, guys. Sorry about that. That was Void Cat technical difficulties. I don't know what she does. She just touches things and they explode in very odd ways, too. Let me just fix another thing here. Yeah, Void Cat, you are an agent of chaos. Which is why we all love you, I suppose. All right. So, and I think that this is wonderful. So this individual thinks it's wonderful that women are doing better than men. And of course, he's within the framework that if men are doing better than women, it is a punch in the eye to every woman everywhere. That's the negative sum framework. So if men are even benefited, women, it's a situation where women are oppressed. You know that framework, right? The UN Women Framework. So everywhere that women are ahead is equality. Everywhere men are ahead is inequality. And we don't care about the situation where women are ahead because that's equality. So, I mean, he's basically thinking that women being ahead is perfect. It's what you want, right? You want women to be ahead. But if you're somebody who's like, you're in a race and you have your favorite, racer and you're handicapping everybody else because you want your particular lady to win. You want her to win. So everybody else, you promote everybody else in the race being handicapped, according to a narrative that they get some kind of racing privilege. Why would you, this is the outcome you want. Why would you be the person who is responsible for making sure the race is fair for all of the other drivers that you don't want to win and you actually think is a horrible thing if they do? Do you get what I'm saying? Like his motivated reasoning is that women should win. And then he's turning around and saying, well, why are men losing? Because people like you control the narrative. You control the hen house. Like you control what happens to boys when they're most vulnerable in schools. Like this is the academic miasma that's leaking out into everything. It's this idea that everything is good as long as women are winning. Oh, why are boys losing? Oh, well, that's bad for women because they won't have partners that are better than them or equal or bring something to the table because they want to be the table. So, and then again, that's the framework. The framework is that if women win, it's good. If men win, somehow women are being not just losing, because losing is fair, right? People lose in a meritocracy. When men win, people like this, they see women as being oppressed. Did I finish the anecdote about the Obama and the infrastructure bill? Yeah, feminists descended upon it and got him to revoke it or not pursue it because most of the funds would go to men's jobs. And they couldn't see that. They couldn't see how an infrastructure bill would benefit everyone. Incidentally, if you're in the US, this might be one of the reasons why a lot of things are failing, right? They didn't see how an infrastructure bill would benefit everyone. They just saw that men were being benefited over women, and they applied the lens that whenever men are benefited over women, that is immoral. It's not just women losing, it's a horrible, sinful, satanic act that must be destroyed, right? And now everybody is worse off for it. And this is the framework that they're going to somehow fix the problem in. The framework that boys having problems, boys failing, and girls succeeding is good, is what's going to fix the problem of boys failing. Do you see the issue here? That like the contradiction in terms? You got to have one or the other here. And again, their framework never been proven. So it's just something they fucking farted out one day and nobody challenged them on. While the loneliness is an issue for both genders, this is the dude, it seems especially hard, or a lack of romantic relationship seems especially damaging for a young man. Well, maybe because they get shit everywhere. Like if we stop saying that men and boys are inferior, or in many ways, like emotionally, if we stop destroying their ability to develop spaces. I mean, me and Brian, and I think Hannah, maybe, we talked about the Men's Shed initiative in the UK. One of them is now forced to allow women in. How are men supposed to develop relationships with each other if they're constantly being overseen by women, right? And determine whether or not, men are up to patriarchal things and oppressing the women. So yes, a man's relationship with a woman becomes more and more important in a society that's destroying his ability to have relationships with men. And this is 100% happening. No matter where men come together to have fun or to talk or to do anything, women are right behind demanding access. Right? So this is the only relationship he has in which it seems to be socially acceptable for him to have. So what a surprise. The only socially acceptable relationship for a man, because if he gets into a relationship with other men, it's automatically suspect of a source of patriarchal, evil. The only socially acceptable relationship for men happens to also be the most socially valuable. What a freaking shock. Women tend to channel some of the romantic energy, if they don't have it, into their friendships and the professional career, whereas young men tend to channel it into things like video games or porn or being sequestered from society. So we just have a group of emotionally and economically unviable young men. Wow, that's a really compassionate way of turning it unviable. Wow. we got a bunch of table scrap young men. We got a bunch of garbage leaving young men. I'm like, oh, so sympathetic, this dude. Like, do you ever get the feeling that they don't regard young men as human beings at all, just resource pods for women? And on just a personal level, I sort of relate to it because I was one of those those men. And had it not been for just some of the incredible offerings of America, access to affordable higher education, and I've been very open about this. My mother had access to family planning. My mother got pregnant at 47, and we had not had access to family planning and my mom had been forced to carry the baby to term, I would have not gone to college. I would have done what I should have done. I was the only man of the house. So he was raised by a single mother who apparently doesn't know how to use birth control at 47. She had apparently an abortion, which allowed him to go to college because he wouldn't have had to support her. This dude has a lot of generational trauma that he hasn't unpacked related to putting women first. Like, why is he responsible to support his pregnant 47-year-old mother when he's what, in his 20s, teens? Like, and why is she being so irresponsible? And why it's like, I guess this is like a three for single mother good, abortion is good, and also completely unexamined expectation that he support the women in his life over his own interests. I think this guy's got some motivated reasoning. Okay, the interviewer says, I want to look at this from the point of view of what this means for girls, because of course, right? A third of American women now earn more than their partners, but according to my research, and I've spent quite a lot of time writing books about women and girls, in couples where the wife earns more than the husband, they will often lie about it in the U.S. Census data to make it look like the man earns more than the wife. So what does it mean for couples navigating a situation where women are doing better, earning more, getting better educated, while men are falling behind? Well, what it means is that we're going to be challenging a lot of stereotypes, and we're going to have to deal with a lot of pressure that's put on not just women, not just men, but women from their female friends to have a man that supports you, that provides for you, and to only see support and provision in terms of one metric, which is money. Like we could do a lot of work at that. We could start addressing the bullying that women do to other women when they choose a lifestyle like this in which they earn more. We could start addressing the insecurities that women have around having a partner that earns less. We could do all of that stuff, but that would require blaming women. Like, I mean, that's what they feel it is, right? I got into a bit of a disagreement with one of the commentators. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but you're a long-time viewer. And I don't want to say tiff. It was just like a bit of a disagreement. He said, don't use the term blame, use the term responsibility. And I said, no, I'm going to say I blame women. And the reason why I'm going to say I blame women is when you soften it, the focus goes from women taking responsibility to women's feelings about taking responsibility. And then you've lost. So yes, I blame women. Right here, this individual has identified something that, gosh darn it, a little blame of women would really fix. But let's see what the answer is from our incredibly enlightening Scott Galloway. Men have not kept pace in terms of picking up the slack. If they're not adding as much economically, are they picking up the slack emotionally or logistically or domestically around the house? Okay, Scott Galloway, the answer is yes. Men on average do 4 times more work between childcare, household chores, and paid employment than women in a week. And it could be more than that. That's a lower bound. And the reality is men's contribution to the relationship in general has not kept pace with the woman's ascent and increased contribution. This is complete and utter bullshit. It is based on nothing. If you look at the Pew Research, both men and women have increased the amount of work they do, but men have increased their amount of work that they've done since the 50s considerably more, right? It used to be a little bit more even, like men still did a bit more work, but I think it was more like an hour. Now it's increased 4-fold that men are doing more work, but 100% men have done more work. Again, this problem could be solved with a little application of blaming women. Maybe you should realize that men aren't responsible for every problem in your life. For example, your own inability to manage your time. So basically, women are just sort of doing the math and saying, I'm not getting as much out of this, so I'm opting out. 2/3 of women under the age of 30 has a boyfriend. 1 in 3 men has a relationship. Women are dating older because they want more economically and emotionally viable men. Well, then those older economically and emotionally viable men are going to be, they're going to have to marry about 3 or 4 women. Okay, I mean, is that what we want? Is that the society? Is that their future? Future is female, and immediately after that, a whole bunch of polygyny. I guess so. And again, like she's asking, how do couples navigate this situation? And he responds with, well, men just aren't picking up the slack. So she's talking, like, honestly, the interviewer is making more sensible statements than the guy that's supposedly advocating for men. So she says, well, how do couples navigate this new situation, which has never been socially really understood? Like, we haven't grappled with it for very long, which is women earning the majority. We could, I don't know, go take a look at old stories, War and Peace. There are several, heiresses who married men who didn't have as much money. How did they navigate that situation? No, he immediately goes to, how can we blame boys and men for not living up to the standards? She's saying, well, how do we navigate these standards and maybe create a more equitable situation for men and women? He's like, well, why aren't the men living up to the standards? Are you really feeling the love from this dude, guys? KK said, KK, what an unfortunate. The interviewer says, part of me gets very depressed by this conversation. And Galloway says, tell me about it. And KK says, does this just not work then? Is it a zero-sum game that if women are going to progress financially and educationally, somehow it's not going to work between men and women? So she's actually hitting the epicenter of this problem. How do women evolve their preferences in a situation where they're earning more, right? How do they learn to overcome that desire to be protected and provided for in that way by men? And he's just going on with, well, men should just protect and provide for women, herpaderp. She's talking about something that's happening inside women. And he's saying, well, we'll just deploy more men's actions. Do you see, like, he's limited to one thing. Make men take responsibility for things that I don't even know if they can move the needle on, right? And blame men. I think Galloway says, I think there are solutions. I think we should do nothing to get in the way of women being financially independent. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But it's like I had this argument on Twitter recently. Like, men gave women equality because feminists say that men have all the power. So where else did it come from? They gave women equality. And then women turned around and basically said, you're undesirable to the men because of the equality that they got. So yeah, there's something here that needs to be dealt with, and it's women's preferences. I think it's wonderful. Okay, this is Galloway continuing. I think it's wonderful, and women, at the end of the day, should not have to lower their standards. Wouldn't it be more like changing your standards? They should be able to reap the rewards for their hard-fought victories. The fact that they work harder, they have better executive function, they're doing well in school, and they're putting their skills to an information age economy. Good for them. Go, girl. Way to go, sister. Do nothing to get in the way of that. At the same time, I do think there's a series of programs that would level up young people in general that would create more economic viability, such as if 2 people got together, they're economically viable. And right now, that's not the case. I think if we raise, oh God, the commie speak starts. I think if we raise minimum wage to $25 an hour, such that an economy where unemployment is its historic lows, is it though? Such that people could just make more money, mandatory national service, such that we could demonstrate heroism more than anything. I think men and young people need more third places, religious institutions, nonprofit, more freshman seats, vocational programming, mandatory national service. Let me throw out a very provocative idea. I think young people need to drink more. There's an anti-alcohol movement that has gotten a lot of purchase. 40% of nightclubs in London have closed down because young people don't have money, and there's this anti-alcohol movement. I think the risk to the 25-year-old liver of alcohol is dwarfed by the risk of anxiety and social isolation. My advice to young people, I'm being somewhat humorous here, is to get out of the house more and drink more and make a series of bad decisions that might pay off. Okay, didn't he just directly contradict himself? He said to drink alcohol more. So he's saying go drink alcohol. So he's saying kill your livers because anxiety and social isolation is worse. God damn. This is like the only thing that really is an actionable step. Okay, guys, solve your problems by drinking more. I gotta ask Prim if this is legitimate therapeutic advice. Oh, good lord. So we got a bit of comedy gobbledygook. Raised the minimum wage to $25 an hour. Okay. Well, the problem is that everything else increases in tune with the minimum wage. So everything else becomes more expensive. And we've already seen that happen. So this doesn't really work. A mandatory national service, that would probably be for men and boys. So drink more, guys, and go to boot camp. Isn't that toxic masculinity? All right. No, nothing like, okay, so he's basically saying that women are more emotionally evolved than men, but is drinking more and going into the military really going to make men more emotionally evolved? Like, this is really, how does such insanity become an expert on anything? Like, what the hell? All right. And honestly, once again, she's saying women have these standards. How do we navigate? And he's saying, well, men just have to live up to those standards. Well, you handicap them from living up to those standards, and you did so based on a conjecture about reality that's never been proven. Like, here's this thing, guys. Like, feminists just literally walked into an empty field. That was the sociology around gender dynamics. Like, there was nobody there. There was nobody talking about it or doing anything about it or doing any research about it. They colonized the entire field, and they set up this fantasy world that has never been proven that men oppress women. It's never even been falsified, like even presented as a falsifiable statement. It's just accepted as the truth, right? So, and now we're operating within this framework. And within this framework, we can't do things like say, well, maybe women need to change their standards. Maybe they need to think about things more individualistically rather than just competing with their girlfriends over how much their partner makes, right? Or allowing their girlfriends to have this kind of influence on them and to shame men who don't make as much. Like, but you can't say that because everything is within the framework that anything that's taken away from women is oppression and wrong. Anything that's expected of women is oppression and wrong. The only thing we can do is, tell boys to man up, because that's essentially what he's doing. Drink more, get into the military, man up. These are his solutions. And again, the problem starts with the assumption that women were disadvantaged. Therefore, we needed to kneecap men. We need to give women only scholarships. We needed to practice affirmative action, which we know now really benefits white women more than anyone. We needed to give women all kinds of initiatives in school to encourage their self-esteem and their belief that they can do anything. Conversely, we also needed to establish educational norms that favored girls. It's actually a little more sinister than that, because the educational norms, phonics versus whole word, it actually causes boys to fall back more than girls. Both boys and girls do better with phonics, but girls do better with word choice, even though they'd be doing better in phonics than boys. So they sacrificed overall success of girls and boys to a lower success system because boys lost out more than girls. Talk about a zero-sum game, huh? And these are the people who are lecturing everybody else. That's a negative-sum game. Everybody else about a zero-sum game. But anyway, we did all of this under the assumption that boys were unfairly handicapped. And now we find out that they're failing. So we applied all of these fixes under the assumption that boys are unfairly handicapped. Now they're failing because that's what we wanted, or we thought that, we wanted girls to succeed. Like he says, I love it that girls are succeeding. right? That over boys, right? We wanted that. And now the people who did that are not questioning their original assumption that boys had an unfair advantage that needed to be leveled by giving girls an unfair advantage. No, that's never in question. We have to do everything within this framework, which lionizes women exceeding over boys and men, and also condemns any situation where we give anything to boys, condemns any situation where we put any expectations on girls. So, I mean, that's the framework. I'm gonna give you guys just the baseline. That's not gonna work. It's not gonna fix anything. It's only gonna increase the problem. All right, so one of the things that we talked about and written about in our research was this notion of a kind of broadening of the concept of care. And that obviously women are still doing the majority of the housework and chores and the caregiving for both kids and elderly. I feel that you're looking at something similar, but in a slightly different way, which is we're defining the concept of being a provider and a protector. Talk about getting those two words, because you've done it in a way that I think we're actually getting you and I at something similar, which is understanding what it means to be a provider and a protector in a slightly different way from the traditional words, which might be a little off-putting to some women. Okay. So again, we're still in the framework of what women want, what women feel, which I reject wholesale. We need to be in the framework of what women need to live up to, what women responsibilities are, what they can be blamed for, and thus need to take responsibility for. We need to get away from the narrative of women hold up half the sky and towards the narrative of women need to do the things that are required to hold up half the sky. But it's interesting that, again, the interviewer is going towards how do we navigate women's expectations in a world where men aren't making as much relative to them. And I think, well, I guess she's tried again to get him to address that basic point. And Galloway says, I'm trying to figure out a way to thread the needle here. I think everybody needs a code to help them guide through the thousands of decisions they make every day, professionally and personally. Some people get their code from their church, from their family, from their work, from their military. And I'd like to think that young men, if they're so inclined, could really lean into this notion of masculinity. What? Let me read that again. I'd like to think that young men, if they're so inclined, could really lean into this notion of masculinity. Do you mean just masculinity, period? Like there is a unique quality to men and how men approach the world? But we need to define it aspirationally. You mean like we always have? And I think of it as three very basic pillars: provider, protector, and procreator. Did we stop defining men aspirationally at some point? Or did we stop saying that boys have the material to attain those aspirations? Because, of course, to say that boys have a unique value proposition is not allowed anymore. Provider. I think every man at the outside of his career in a capitalist society should assume or aim to take economic responsibility for his household. And by the way, that sometimes means realizing your partner is better at this whole money thing and being more supportive of her career. When my partner and I had kids, she was working at Goldman Sachs, making a lot of money, a lot more money than me. So I stepped up. I stepped up. I was home for bath time. I organized the house because I realized how important economic responsibility was for our home. Okay, is my camera still good, Brian?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, I'm actually drifting back a bit. All right, so did you find KK? So the interviewer said, did you find that emasculating in any way? Did any part of you struggle with the role of being sort of primary provider? And Galloway said, a little bit, and we can also talk about this, but the hard reality is, and I don't think we want to admit this, I think women are less sexually attracted to men when they lose their economic viability. Wow. We finally got an actual legitimate statement from this man. Two, but we don't go anywhere. Like, this is the most legitimate thing he said. Women lose their sexual attraction to a man when men lose their economic viability, and then divorce follows. All right, I'm gonna put the addendum in there. All right. First time he said anything worth saying in this whole thing. And then he just glosses over it. 2, protector. I think your default mechanism as a man should be protector. Men need to be strong. They need to be protectors. Okay, but how do boys get to this point? How do boys get to the point of being a provider? And if women are going to lose sexual interest in them because they aren't providers, how do we navigate that? No answer. They need to be protectors. Think about the jobs you think of being masculine: fireman, cop, military. What do? They protect. It's not just physical. It breaks my heart that women in New York say they don't feel safe on the subway, or that they see a group of men coming down the sideway they cross the street. We have to train our boys from an early age. Don't we already do that? And the interviewer says, well, that is physical. I mean, that's what we're afraid of. And SG says 100%, but I think it's more than that. I think being a man is where when people are gossiping and criticizing other people behind their back, your default mechanism as a man is you defend that person. Anecdote time. I remember way back when I was in college, I was taking a line. I was on a, there's a C train in the city I was in. And I was listening to a bunch of college or teenagers from like a high school nearby that was on the line. And the girl started really tearing into another girl and calling her a slut. And the boys said, don't you think that's a bit rude or like extreme? So trying to talk her down from this kind of backbiting, gossiping behavior. So I think boys already do this. Like, I don't. Why is he basically saying, let's do it? This is a crisis in young men. Let's do what we've already been doing. You may not agree with the transgender community. Okay, I'm not going to skip this. But you see the community demonize your default as a man is to defend, to protect. Oh. That's what we do. We protect. And then let me go to the third thing, protect, procreator. I think sexual desire, wanting to find a mate, I think if channeled correctly, that could be a fantastic motivator and means for being a better man. So he's taking this from a left position. So as a man on the left, he believes it's his obligation to protect the purse puppies of the women on the left. That's basically what it is. It's exactly the same, right? He's saying, boys, just do what men have always done, except do it with more handicaps. And if you fail, it's your fault. Okay, I'm going to skip the procreator. Scott, I appreciate the fact that you're tackling stuff that is awkward both for men and for women to talk about. But there are bad actors online who are taking some of this disconnect between the achievements of young men and young women and turning it into a victim story and turning it into a vengeance story. A vengeance story, huh? So this isn't a vengeance story. Hey, Brian, could you move the camera a little bit to, I guess, my right? Just so I'm in frame.
I did about as much as I could. It's kind of cut off.
Okay, so I have to actually move. All right, we'll figure it out. A lot of my women friends, particularly younger women, have said to me in recent months, God, we feel like we've had 2,000 years of disadvantage inbuilt. We were finally getting ahead, and now we're being put back in a box again. How do you navigate that? Who's putting you back in a box? You mean like men are starting to vote, trying to vote in terms of the interest of the financial system that supports us all? Is that what you're talking about? And again, we're talking about this whole 2,000 years of disadvantage. Again, not proven, not even presented in a way that it could be proven or disproven. So they're making an assumption about how the world works based on fantasy. And if it did work that way, if men really didn't care about women, this wouldn't work. Like the feminist framework wouldn't work. The feminists saying, hey, we're disadvantaged, do something about it. That wouldn't work. Okay, Galloway says, first off is to acknowledge that the gag reflex is understandable and natural and maybe even makes sense because from 1945 to let's call it 2005, America registered unbelievable prosperity and economic growth. And all of that prosperity was crammed into a third of the population, specifically white dudes born heterosexual. So my generation has just registered massively unfair prosperity. I always acknowledge the majority of my success is not my fault. So it's understandable that people say, okay, you've got a 3,000 year head start. How now your hair's on fire when men aren't doing well? No. Is that really what's going on? Like if women tomorrow said, hey, we actually find men who stay at home and fix the house and take care of the babies and have a garden, we find that super sexy. We don't lose sexual interest. Do you think men would have a problem with that? No. It'd be over. This entire argument would be gone. The issue is that women are not attracted to men like that. You guys are just not. And you're not doing the work to look within, to become a person who can continue, like to be a woman who can have a husband and children in a world where you're equal, right? Or even making more. You're not doing the internal work to become that person. And until it's done, like this society is just going to fail. Like if it doesn't breed, it fails, period. So until women do that work, we're stuck with a failing society. Okay. And no matter how much you say about, oh, we're finally getting what we want, which was equality, even though the majority of women didn't want to have the vote. You know, we're finally getting equality. Why aren't we attracted to the men who are equal to us? And then you wonder where patriarchy came from. Patriarchy comes from. It comes from the fact that women do not find men who are not financially viable sexually attractive. That's where patriarchy comes from. They don't find men who can't protect them sexually attractive. That's where patriarchy comes from, right? They want to have a man who invests his resources in their procreation. That's where patriarchy comes from. Not feminist patriarchy, because that doesn't exist. But just people being like, oh God, how do we create a situation where women are willing to reproduce with men? Oh, geez, we have to make it so men have a greater degree of financial success, a greater ability to protect women. Otherwise, women aren't going to be happy. What does that sound like? But what I would urge is the following. Empathy is not a zero-sum game. Really sounds like it with these people, doesn't it? Like, what was this entire screed? But empathy is a zero-sum game. At one moment, did he actually say something that might be empathetic to what men are dealing with? And that is women lose sexual attraction to men who are not financially viable. If you go into a morgue and there's 5 people who died by suicide, 4 are men. And you know what? Who wants more economically and emotionally viable men? Women. Our country and our women are not going to continue to flourish unless we have more viable men. Why are you framing this as these men being unviable? Like they're just garbage. And also to recognize a 19-year-old man. Do you see that? Like men are either viable for women or they're garbage. And just to recognize a 19-year-old male, maybe his mother's addicted to opiates, his father's incarcerated, he has a lot of middle-class on-ramps, sequestered, is really struggling, has big tech companies trying to get him to engage in porn, gambling. He's got a much more risk-averse, aggressive brain. We can have empathy for these people. Civil rights didn't hurt white people. Gay marriage didn't hurt heteronormative marriage. Our young men are struggling. Actually, civil rights, I don't want to say civil rights, but whatever we did to the Black community really hurt Black men most. Let's be honest. Like it destroyed them. And honestly, that's sort of like the government was like, well, let's outcompete Black men. And then it did. And then they were destroyed. So yeah, it didn't really hurt white people, but it sure as hell hurt Black men. That's like ground zero for boys and men struggling because they've lost their role. And they've specifically lost it because the government outcompeted them in that role. That's like, yeah, hold my milkshake while I go and just completely destroy Black men's career by outcompeting them in protection, provision, and procreation. When I had this conversation 5 years ago, I was called Andrew Tate with a graduate degree. I was called a misogynist. No, you weren't. Like nothing that you said is even remotely offensive. In fact, I think you're trying to use Andrew Tate to gain some kind of weird street cred because you're so milquetoast and you're so exactly the mouthpiece of what we've been doing, the solution that we've been pursuing. And the conversation has become so much more productive because the people who are leading the conversation now are mothers. And when I tell young men when I'm coaching is the way that you know if you've failed as a man is when you start blaming other people. You start blaming women for your lack of sexual prospects, and you start blaming immigrants for your economic problems. That means you've jumped the shark and you've really lost the script. So that this really is about is another ad for the Democratic Party and its ideals. There you go. They don't really want to solve the problem. If you did, you would actually be drilling down on that one statement, that one glimmer of truth that came through all of this bullshit, which was women are not sexually attracted to men who are not economically viable. Well, you'd also extend that to women are not sexually attracted to men they don't perceive can be their protectors. And until either women learn to evolve past that limbic brain thinking, or we construct a society in which men can develop greater economic power than women and the ability to protect women and the recognition that they protect women, we are stuck with a failing society. And you can talk about how boys are failing all you want, but the real issue here is that we are failing as a society. We got two options here. One, women do some serious soul searching about what they desire and start to realize that the Bible was right when it said, you shall desire your husband shall rule over you and you shall desire him. It was right. It was saying that women desire men who they perceive as superior to them in protection and provision. Right? That's what women want. And if you don't give that to women, you have a failed society. Right? We can either recognize that and evolve as women beyond that, or we can let men reconstruct the thing that we desire from them and thus have a society that works. But none of this can be done in a framework like this. And again, like we've let me finish the last paragraph. So there's an aspirational form of masculinity, and I like to think it's a fantastic code for young men, but it all starts with empathy. This is not a zero-sum game. Women are still face huge challenges, but we can also acknowledge our young men are struggling and need our help. So women still face huge challenges, even though they're out ahead. Like, these people have no answers, right? They have no answers. They're just muddling around in the muck with brainless takes in the context of a framework that they don't question, that they've never questioned, not since it was invented whole cloth from the Imaginarium. Like feminism is just bullshit. Like, I mean, honestly, if they had framed it in a falsifiable way, we would know it was false by now. But they didn't, because they know it is. It's complete bullshit. It doesn't hold any water. And yet we do, all of our interventions have to take place within a framework that is bullshit. Bullshit in, bullshit out. All right. Okay, I know you got to get going, Brian. So I'm
You
gonna.
can go for a little while longer if you want to.
Oh, well, I don't. Okay, well, you're right. Well, I'll take a look at the. Let's see if we got any super chows, guys. Send those super chows in if you haven't. Oh, something maybe. All right. So
Well,
before
there is a super chow. There is a super chow.
Was there any super chats? Because I have no.
No. Well, let me just double check. I saw super chows, but that's it. Yeah, just
send in those super chows now, guys. Feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Once again, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. All right, I'm going to read Albatross. Every time I hear articles like this, sends in $5, by the way, it always sounds like women as a whole are separate from society. Like women just aimlessly drift through the world, and society, men, etc., just sprinkle resources like a pet goldfish. Doesn't it, though? What really astounds me is that so many women love this framing. Like, I despise it. Like, I'd rather be blamed than be blameless. Because when you have something to blame, when you're blamed or when you recognize that you have responsibility for something, you can do something to change it. But I think that this is the fundamental difference between me and women. I don't know how much I relate. I am like women. I think many of them would say I'm just a man in a woman's skin. But this is the difference. Like, I think they honestly believe that blamelessness is the only way to get things done, because how they see the world is in terms of manipulating men to do things. And that's right in feminism. Like, how can you simultaneously say men have all the power and not admit that everything that women get comes from men's beneficence? Now, I think that framework is wrong. I don't think it's ever been proven. I think that women have incredible power. That's why they get the shit done that they do. But they don't want to see that because they feel like blamelessness is their key to getting anything. And they see everything in terms of what men can do for them. And it's like that argument I got into on this channel, Honey Badger Radio, with a woman who said, she said, I hope they pick you. And I say, well, they sort of have, for whatever reason. A lot of you guys seem to like me, although, you have criticism, but whatever, that's fine. That's fair. And then she said, well, I hope you get whatever it is that pygmies want from men, sperm in their brain or something. I'm like, well, I originally said, well, what do you want from men? But thinking about it, I'm like, she doesn't understand that I operate in a completely different framework. She's like, whatever pygmies get from men, whatever they want to get from men, you get it. I'm like, no, it's not what I want to get from men. It's what I want for men, right? It's what I want to see for men. Like, I want to see services for men and boys who experience domestic violence and sexual assault. I want proper interventions for men and boys when they're struggling in this way, right? I don't want to see any more sacrificing men a recognition of the value of masculinity in order to inflate girls' already inflated egos, right? What I want to see is something for men, not from men, right? And I realize she doesn't understand that, because to understand that would be to see yourself in terms of what you can do rather than what you inspire men to do for you. That's the difference. It's a complete conceptual difference that I don't think they understand. Okay, I'm going to look into the special chat first. So Hoy says Andrew is trash. Yes, he is. But he doesn't shit on boys as much as everyone else. Like, he still sort of shits on boys, but at least not as overtly. Hey, Karen, what are you on about? I am not Karen. Unless you're referring to me as like the general Karen term, which, yes, I want to speak to the manager of feminism, because this is a bunch of bullshit. I'm gonna rip you up one side and down the other. So Botch TV says, I should get drunk all the time because I'm sad and anxious. Cool. Yes. This is the one actionable thing that he said in this entire word salad. Get drunk, guys. Go into the military. Am I wrong? Botch says, men and women's exclusive spaces isn't a terrible thing. For example, women's shelters, things like that. Men don't shut those down. Women shut down men's shelters, though. Yes. They shut down anything that is for men, because despite insisting that everyone else regards this as a zero-sum game, they 100% regard this as a zero-sum game. All right, let's see if I can find anybody who's pushing back. Meadow Wolf. So failure is engineered into the program. 100%. You got it. We are not going to solve this problem in this framework. And everything is becoming a disaster. Because, get this, boys and men are critical for the economy. They're critical. Everybody is going on tariffs, no tariffs, whatever, taxes, no taxes. Government action doesn't create an economy. The bedrock of an economy comes from the relationship between men and women, and how well we actually raise our boys to channel their natural risk-taking into useful economic endeavors. That's what I see. And what have we done for the last 50, 60, 70 years? We've taken our little economic disruptors and put them under the thumb and said, "Shut up, you little cockroach." And now we have no economy. There you go. Woof. Okay. What the hell is that squeaking? Oh, it's the void cat pacifier. It's the birds.
There is a Rumble rant.
There is.
Yeah, it just says it's from OIC, and they just say, "Here, have a Rumble rant for $1. Thank you."
Okay, so they don't really say anything. Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me double check. Nope, no more super chows. I could check, see what we're at, if we got any support that we can thank for. Once again, if you want to support the show, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Or no, sorry, that is to send us a message. Feedthebadger.com/justthetsupport. Feedthebadger.com/support. Sorry, guys. Oh, we did get something that might be stuck. Oh, all right. So $20 from Silver Bullet. So that's to the Badger, the feedthebadger.com/support. So our monthly fundraiser. So thank you, Silver. Very much appreciated. Yeah, I think that we're pretty unique. Like, nobody can blame women, and nobody can stop saying, something happens to men and how are women most affected? Like, they have to see it in terms of a framework in which women have to be more affected. Otherwise, we can't care about it. And then everything has to be in terms of benefiting women. And how do you fix a problem that requires you to care about men in that framework? The truth is, you can't. The framework is that if men have a problem, they have to fix it. Otherwise, they're worthless. Like, the guy is in that framework. He sees men as worthless and unviable if they cannot live up to the standards of women. How do you question those standards? How do you say, well, maybe women need to do some work in evolving their standards in men, when you can't, like he said, women can have whatever standards they want. Well, fine. But if the standards are non-functional, if they're not resulting in relationship formation in your society, then your society is kaput. It's an evolutionary dead end, the end. So either women evolve their standards, or society has to elevate men to be able to fulfill those standards. You got two options here. You got to choose one. And they are not in a framework that allows them to choose either. Therefore, these people who control such a fundamental part of our society are destroying it because they refuse to recognize High Brazil is sinking, that the problem is coming from them. And of course, they refuse to recognize the problem is coming from them, because that means they don't get money for it. All right, so I'll do one last check. Nebulous tethers of benevolence. That's really depressing to realize, huh? I'm not sure what you're talking to. Oh, he's spinning his wheels and has no destination, probably. He's just hoping it all works out how he wants with zero actual prescriptions. No, drink, go into the military. Drink, guys. Glug, glug, glug. That's going to solve the boy crisis. Drug use. But don't use porn. Porn is bad. Just use drugs. Shit, I just got the whole channel demonetized. Like, I'm in Minecraft. Use drugs in Minecraft. All right. You know what? Are you sure you can continue? Like, this is getting pretty late.
No, it's fine. I mean, like, you can go for a little while longer if you want.
Well, why don't you add whatever you like? Let's get a man's opinion.
Well, I mean,
on
it's
this.
just what I predicted. Like I said, I mean, if it's good enough for a mainstream website, then it's definitely pro-feminist. Like, this, like, we're at the point now where basically everything that gets put out there that is making any kind of commentary on, what men and young men and boys in particular are going through has to go through the feminism filter. Has to. So, like, because that's ultimately what this is about. It's not even about women. Obviously it's not about women, because if it was about women, it would actually, like, there would be a recognition of the fact that if men suffer, women suffer. So basically, they're just like, well, okay, we have to protect our ideology at all costs. So that comes first. And we'll frame it however we have to so that, people who read this will see that, oh, yeah, but boys have some serious problems. But like the real issue is that it's affecting women. And it's like, but yeah, but you have no interest in solving the problem because you just want to, basically just keep talking in circles around the fact that it's essentially saying, how do we fix the world's problems without recognizing that we caused it? That's all. That's what it is now. It's all that. It's all like, how do we address the problems caused by feminism without crediting it to feminism while also preserving feminism and everything that comes with that. And so that's why when they said, oh, we brought a man out here, and it's like, yeah, but he's a male feminist, you might as well put a middle-aged, slightly overweight woman out there to nag us, because those are the only men that are allowed to have, ideas about this, because ultimately it doesn't matter what your plumbing is, only matters is what you support ideologically. So I mean, I'm not surprised. They want things to get worse, and that's okay. Like, I mean, because there's going to be suffering, and then there might be a response. But yeah, that's where we are. OIC just gave us $5 and said, "I'm just about done with my morning coffee. Can you play the Humph Women audio clip?" Oh, I'm afraid I don't have that set up in this current scene collection, because I didn't think to put it in there. So, but yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, that's it. Allison, are you there? You're quiet as hell. You're muted. You're still muted.
Yes. I know. I had to navigate. I got like a billion tabs open right now. But yeah, this is it, guys. Like, they deliberately went out to kneecap boys, and they kneecap boys, and now boys are kneecapped, and now they're like, oh, well, what do we do? Well, stop kneecapping them. Like, we have all the statistics. Like, boys are 100% discriminated against when it comes to like grading. They're discriminated against when it comes to bursaries, scholarships. They're discriminated against when it comes to preferential hiring, affirmative action. These are all the things that they put in place based on a conjecture about reality that they never had to prove. And now that we've done this grand experiment saying, oh, well, boys were unfairly privileged, let's put in a whole bunch of stuff to unfairly privileged girls, and we find that boys, oh, they're failing. Oh, well, we're not going back and questioning the entire premise that we did this based on? No, we can't do that. We can't do that. Well, our inability to do that means that we have totally fucked ourselves. Like, what else can you say? Like, you cannot continue to mismanage something so essential as the relationship between the sexes like this. Mismanage ends up cascading down to mismanaging the economy. Like, the real reason everybody's going around with their hair on fire about the economy is because our economy is based on disruption. It's based on disruptively new technologies. And where are they? Well, what did you do to your little disruptors? You artificially handicap them in order to pursue this idea that girls were artificially handicapped. And we can't go back to first basis. We can't go back to first principles, because to do that would be to question all of these people and what they think. Like, it's not just the money. They base their entire identity around being right, being academics, being intelligent. And when you tell them you've based your entire worldview on the stupidest, most ridiculous crap in human history, and we are now all reaping the whirlwind because of it, they don't want to hear that. That's basically telling them they're dumb, right? And people like us, the serfs, the stupid people, we're not allowed to say the smart people are dumb. We're not allowed to say the liberals are, like, I was a liberal. I don't know what I am now. I just, like, once they started to say you need to cape for corporate media, you need to cape for big pharma, you need to cape for government, I was like, yeah, I don't know what you guys are anymore. I'm gone. But anyway, you can't question them because they're smarter than you. That's what it all comes down to. They don't want to feel like they're stupid. They don't want to lose a source of money. And they don't want to have to care about boys. Because God forbid you care about boys, huh? God forbid you just help boys because they're human beings. They're the penis people. And occasionally the penis people deserve throw them a bone now and again. Again, like it's that woman. Why, whatever you pick-me's want from men. No, pick-me's want something for men. We want human dignity, recognition of their issues. To live in a world where we can provide what boys need without having to think about how it impacts girls, just because boys need it. That's what pick-me's want. At least that's what this pick-me wants. All right. Okay. I'll do another check on the fundraiser, and then we will, and I'll do another look through all of your guys' shenanigans in the comment, starting with the special chat. Looks like we don't have any further. I mean, it's Monday. Usually everything is slow on Monday. All right. Special chat. What do you got? Ram Bam. Allison is best pick me. Okay. Chiman Ruler 15. Right, Allison. Not everything has to be about women and girls. Men and boys need care and attention too. Yes. Not everything has to be about women and girls. And that's the thing. Like in the 90s, they created the zero-sum game. That if boys feel good about themselves, that means necessarily girls have to feel bad about themselves. So if we recognize that boys have certain needs in order to develop their unique disruptive potential, that's excluding girls and making them feel bad about themselves. Everything became about girls' self-esteem, right? Couldn't do anything for boys because what about girls' self-esteem? If you do anything unique for boys, that means the girls don't have those unique qualities. So what? So what if girls don't have those unique qualities? This is something else that I've noticed. When you don't create a system that helps boys become their disruptive potential, fulfill their disruptive potential, you also don't get the Ada Lovelaces, the Grace Hoopers, Grace Hoopers, the Madame Curies. You don't get the girls who are disruptive. That's how it works. When you play to the female common denominator, you get average women. You get failed boys and average girls. Just average. Just conformist, not very smart enough to do, find a middle management position in society, but not disrupt anything, God forbid. So you just get subpar. That's what you get. That's what we're getting. Because again, feminists put in place an intervention that actually made the smartest girls stupider, right? Whole word. Smartest girls, stupider. Smartest boys, even stupider, right? Everybody gets stupider, but boys get more stupider, so it's good. That's the mentality we're dealing with. All right. Okay, so you don't have to pick up Lindsay?
I do, but later, a little bit later.
Oh, okay. So she must be closing? No, opening.
No, she opens, but like her shift's gonna be a little longer, so she's training a guy. But I mean, I do have to go soonish though.
Okay, that's fine. I was worried that we were going over and you had to get going. I don't like. Guys, like, yeah. I'll take a look at the horizontal chat. John Frosow, because women can do anything. No, they can't. Right? And the funny thing is that they inadvertently are showing this. What is wonderful about girls in school, right? They sit, they obey, they listen to the rules, they just regurgitate stuff they're told. They're perfect, average automatons. That's what they basically say. Boys are disruptive. They're constantly pushing things. They need to move. They have a different kind of intelligence. It's less complacent. You need to tell them why things are important, right? Girls just do it because, they want to impress you. And that's become the gold standard of a student, is a student that's shaped to the teacher. And I actually think that doesn't do girls, like I just said, it doesn't do girls any benefit. Like really smart girls lose out on this too. Like girls who have that kind of disruptive intelligence, they really lose out on this. Like I remember going through school. School was hell for me. It was hellish. I was put back like I think 2 grades because they thought I was a complete idiot until they actually got me on one of those like the standardized tests, the SATs, and they're like, "Oh, wow. I guess she wasn't an idiot." No, it was because your school was crap. Everything was rote, everything was compliance, everything was sitting still, listening, not questioning. All right? And it was horrifying. But that is the atmosphere that the average girl, I don't even think the average girl thrives in it. They just survive in it better. Right? So we are actually, by destroying boys, I know this is going to sound weird coming from me, we are destroying smart girls. And we're probably also lessening the average girl's ability to question things and think critically as well. This is the shit pile. And the funny thing is, again, our economy is based on disruption, and we have massively fucked ourselves by doing this. Liz S. Men have the Faustian spirit. I suppose you could say it that way. Night Motorcycle. Ada's bio is just as fluffed up as Hedy Lamar's. Okay. Sometimes there is a good reason to feel bad about yourself. Yes. Yes, this self-esteem crap is similarly terrible. And how did education come to be about flattering the egos of the average woman, or the average girl? Does she really need her ego flattered? Like, education is about learning what you don't know, not what you do know. Okay, I'll go to the special chat again. Andre says, the most concerning thing is that this treatment of men and boys can't go on forever. Men are the #1 apex predator. It's really stupid to keep poking the bear time and time again. I don't think men are actually going to do anything to women. They are going to quiet quit. The issue with being the apex predator isn't that they're going to become predators of women. It's that they're just going, and they already have. And I don't even think it's intentional. Like, the economy that we have now is a result of men's particular value propositions being mismanaged in childhood, in school. It's simple as that. Our economy is based on disruptors. What have we done to our disruptors? We've destroyed them. Because the perfect student is a girl who complies, disrupts nothing. Okay, XL2589. Serious question. Do we need to be like trad wives and do traditional gender roles? No. Okay, we don't have to do that. First of all, trad wives is a 50s construct. Women have worked throughout all of human history. You know, women actually owned and managed brick foundries in Rome, and that is like the most male occupation of the time. The female occupations like brewster, butcher, real estate manager, that was like majority female during Rome. So women have always worked. They've always worked. You don't need to have a particular lifestyle. You just need to care about men. It's funny because I've seen this in the community that I've managed. Like, there are now 7 couples with babies. No, 5 couples with 7 babies in the community that I manage. We're like getting up to like almost like Amish reproduction levels. And each of these women who's part of this couple is unique. They're a unique person, and they have constructed a unique relationship of respect based simply on a recognition of men's issues. You can be a trad wife. You can be a career woman, right? You can be whatever it is, as long as you think about things not in terms of what do men do for me, but what can I do for men? Right? I'm a career woman. I'll use my career to build a family, right? I am a trad wife. I'll use my homemaking skills to build a family. What can I do for the men in my life? What can I do for the children in my life? What can I do for my family? That's the mentality. That's all that, and you can be whatever particular type of woman that you are, as long as you change your mentality from what do men do for me to what can I do for men? The men in my life. The men in general, too. I mean, because Jesus Christ, they need somebody to advocate for them. And Rambam says, when we set men and women in competition with each other, we fucked ourselves, and not in a good way. Yes. And then the people who did this insist on blaming everyone else but themselves for having done it. They say everybody else has a zero-sum game. Meanwhile, they're pursuing a negative-sum game. Which, like, just get rid of the oppression narrative. Like, you don't have to have it. Like, it's not an obligation to believe that you're oppressed as a woman. It's no obligation. It's never been proven. So it's not actually objective reality. So if you don't think it does anything for you as a lady, get rid of it. It's worthless. I mean, to me, it's worthless. Because I'd rather see myself in terms of what I can do rather than what I am a victim of. Because I found that to be a lot more beneficial in my life. All right, so let's see what else we got. Horizontal chat. Senior Sticks, what if the woman has no homemaking skills? I have no homemaking skills. Like I can sweep, I can clean things. Me and things that need to be watched are not really a good combination. Like if you put me in front of something and you're like, you please watch this, I will probably be able to focus for about a minute, and then I'm off in some kind of a world of abstraction almost immediately. So it's why I don't like drive motorcycles. My husband would probably love it if I drove motorcycles, but I'm too easily distracted. And so cooking's not something that's really good for me, but I'm good at making sauces. That I can do. So I don't know, like if you don't have homemaking skills, if a woman if that's a make it or break it issue for you, then find a woman who has homemaking skills. Senior Sticks, not all women are feminine, not all mothers. Yep. Norwegian, I learned homemaking skills as a 18-year-old bachelor because I had to. Yeah, that's fine. Like, I mean, honestly, people are just a little bit too, I think they're a little uptight about the exact arrangement of their relationships. You know, just care about each other. It'll probably work out. Be excellent to each other. Right? Okay. You must. Okay. Do you have anything to add, Brian?
No. I mean, I think that the gender role thing has never been as strict as people think. I think that that's another one of these feminist lies. Like feminists lied about gender roles, and now even people who are trying to make things right, they're like, should we go back to the gender roles? And they don't realize they're saying, should we go back to the gender role nonsense that feminists made up? And they keep accusing people of trying to go back to, when like the truth of it is that there were no perfect roles. People just fell generally into certain, behaviors and certain types that was just suitable for them. And it just so happens that if you just leave people alone, women will fall into certain things more often than not. Men will fall into certain things more often than not. It doesn't need to be pushed on anybody, and it does not exist in the weird, like, in the feminist mind that is basically in everybody else's mind. So just like when you think about what should we be doing, try to ask yourself, wait, am I talking about something that really happened, or am I talking about something that I'm told really happened constantly by the media, the TV, my teachers? And is it bullshit? Because it probably is bullshit, so I mean, like, I don't even think I'm saying anything all that brilliant, because I think it's just like, but I see this panicking of women that are like, well, men are going to take away our rights. It's like, probably not. And also, do you even know what that means? Like, when you say rights, do you even know what the word rights means? Because, like, this is the thing, like, we're not we are not trained to question the frameworks that we're being sort of like that are thrown at
Yes.
us. You know, like we have to question the foundation of what it is that's being discussed before you even get into gender roles. And ask yourself, like, who made, like, did the term gender roles exist in the time of like the Old West or like Victorian England? Did they say, what's your gender role, madam? Did they say that? Or were people
No.
just doing things and it just
Yeah.
so happens that there were patterns that emerged between the sexes? I mean, I don't even think the word gender existed back then. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. I think people are a little bit. Somebody said one man, one woman. Well, I'm sort of a classical liberal, so I don't make that prescription. I'm not coming from more of a conservative background. I find just let people do what they do. Don't stress out about it. Try to encourage, gay individuals to pursue relationships that are fulfilling and not destructive, and don't treat sexuality as self-flagellation. That's something I've noticed. And just try to, trans and gay people, just try to advocate to be the best you can be with being that person. Like, again, I'm more of a classical liberal. I'm like, yeah, let's just be okay with things. Like, you can be trans, but ultimately, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. What matters is that you act in an ethical manner towards others. And I don't think that an identity of being trans or being gay or being a lesbian is more important than being morally upstanding and being excellent to one another. All right. So with that, unless Brian wants to say anything further, I think this is good. This is an adequate amount of show. So if you would like to send a message about anything that we've talked about, you want to complain, you want to tell me I'm wrong, you want to say something, you want to give us a compliment, that would be nice, or anything, you can do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very best way to send us the funds, and very best way for you to send us whatever comment you want us to address. And we will do so at the next relevant show. Like, if we have a topic related to what you're sending us, we'll put it on that show. And and if you want to just support the show because you love us that much, you can go feedthebadger.com/support. And because it's on Honey Badger Radio, I guess I have to do the thing. So like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, put a comment in the area below, and share, because we really appreciate that. This message is not, it's got to be shared, because otherwise the only people, the people at the helm of society is this dude. And he's like, yeah, our solution is to drink more. Glug, glug, glug. I mean, is this the person you want at the wheel of society? I hope not. All right. So with that, thank you for your kind attention, and have a lovely evening, afternoon, second brunch, whatever you're doing, wherever you're doing it. Bye.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.